For decades, visiting the US was second nature for Canadians. Whether it was a quick road trip, a winter escape, or just a cross-border shopping run, it never felt like international travel. It felt like visiting family. But in 2025, that's changing. What used to be automatic now feels uneasy. What once felt like a friendship now feels like a transaction. And millions of Canadians are quietly, but firmly, saying no. They're not canceling trips out of fear. They're choosing not to go, out of principle. But before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe. Because this isn't just a shift in travel plans. It's a sign that even the closest friendships can start to feel one-sided. Number 1, the 51st state comment. The rhetoric started as soon as Trump returned to power. Before a single policy was passed, he was already calling Canada the 51st state. In December 2024, Trump posted on Truth Social, referring to Prime Minister Trudeau as Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada. He suggested Canadians would benefit from joining the US with lower taxes, stronger defense, and economic growth, if they gave up their sovereignty. While some called it a joke, many in Canada saw it as another reminder of how little respect the relationship was getting. This wasn't satire, it wasn't new. But this time, it wasn't being ignored. Across Canada, the message landed: this wasn't how allies treat each other. By January, Trump was openly promoting economic force as a way to pressure Canada into alignment. And in May, during a meeting with new Prime Minister Mark Carney, he said it again, calling Canada his cherished 51st state. That wasn't surprising, it was just confirmation. Because for months, Canadians had been watching the relationship shift, from tense to unequal to outright demeaning. Now they're responding in a way that's quiet but unmistakable. Not with outrage, not with protests, but by staying home. Because when the friendship feels one-sided, crossing the border stops making sense. Number 2, unfair tariffs. For Canadians, the return of tariffs in 2025 didn't come as a surprise. But the reasoning behind them, that's what felt insulting. The US linked new tariffs to fentanyl trafficking and illegal immigration. But less than 1% of fentanyl enters through Canada, and illegal crossings at the northern border remain a fraction of what's seen in the south. Still, Canada was treated the same, with blanket measures and broad accusations. Then the justification changed. Suddenly, it was about protecting American manufacturing. The reasoning shifted, but the pressure didn't. Many Canadians had hoped that a change in leadership might lead to a change in tone. But by May, it was clear, the tariffs weren't going anywhere. To many, it felt like Canada was being punished, not for wrongdoing, but for convenience. Not because the facts supported it, but because the politics did. This isn't just about economics, it's about fairness. And when fairness disappears, so does the desire to keep supporting the relationship. And for Canadians watching all this unfold, it doesn't just sour trade. It sours the relationship and makes spending money across the border feel like endorsing the very treatment they're pushing back against. Number 3, border scrutiny. Crossing the US border used to feel routine. Now, for many Canadians, it feels like something else entirely. Travelers are reporting longer waits, more aggressive questioning, and random checks of phones and laptops, even when nothing feels out of the ordinary. There's no official change in policy, but on the ground, something's different, and it's not clear why. Canada isn't a major source of illegal immigration or security threats. Yet Canadian travelers are facing a level of scrutiny that feels disconnected from the facts. Many say the tone has changed, not openly hostile, just colder, less trusting. It doesn't feel like you're crossing into a neighbor's country anymore. It feels like you're being sized up from the moment you arrive. Even the Canadian government has taken notice. In April 2025, Ottawa updated its travel advisory for the US, warning citizens to expect increased scrutiny at border crossings, including potential searches of electronic devices. That kind of warning isn't issued lightly. And for everyday travelers, it's confirmation of something they've already been feeling. When your visit starts with suspicion, and your own government urges caution, it's easier than ever to stay home. Number 4, losing respect from the U.S. For decades, Canadians viewed the U.S. as a true ally, a reliable friend across the border. They stood by through economic shifts, foreign policy stances, and military cooperation, even fighting alongside the U.S. in wars they didn't start. And in return, they believed that respect was mutual. But in 2025, that belief is starting to unravel. According to a new AP NORC poll, only 45% of Americans now consider Canada a close ally, down from 62% just 2 years ago. To many Canadians, that shift doesn't just show up in polling, it shows up in attitude, in how they're spoken about, in how little their loyalty seems to matter. And yet, Canada remains the largest source of international tourism to the United States. Millions cross the border each year, supporting restaurants, hotels, and winter destinations across Florida, Arizona, and beyond. That's what makes the tone from U.S. leadership so hard to ignore. When Canadian concerns are brushed aside, when leaders downplay the decline in Canadian tourism, it sends a clear message. You're welcome when you're spending, but not when you're speaking. Because nobody wants to visit a country that only values them at the checkout counter, and nowhere else. Number 5, the exchange rate. For many Canadians, the exchange rate has always been part of the deal. Paying more in US dollars wasn't ideal, but it didn't stop them. In 2025, it's not that the rate is worse, it's that the timing is. The Canadian dollar is hovering around $1.40 to the US dollar, inflating everything from hotel stays to grocery runs. A $12 meal becomes nearly $17. A mid-range vacation starts to feel like luxury pricing, before tips, taxes, or insurance. In past years, people shrugged it off. But this year, with everything else happening, it's becoming the last straw. Canadians aren't boycotting the US because of the dollar, but it makes that decision easier. Why spend more to feel less welcome? Countries like Mexico, Portugal, and Thailand offer more value, friendlier reception, and often fewer travel headaches. It's not about politics anymore. It's about practicality. No dramatic gestures, no headlines, just quiet choices made at the booking screen. Because when the welcome wears thin and the costs keep rising, even loyal travelers start rethinking the default. In 2025, many already have, not in anger, just in agreement with what the numbers are telling them. Number 6, better alternatives. This isn't just about avoiding the US, it's also about what Canadians are choosing instead. In 2025, places like Cancun, Portugal, Spain, and the Caribbean are booming with Canadian visitors. Many destinations are offering longer visa-free stays, better value, and, most importantly, a warmer welcome. Then there's travel at home. Canadian tourism is thriving in Prince Edward Island, Vancouver Island, the Rockies, and the Maritimes. It's not a political statement, it's just a better experience. You can walk through Lisbon without being questioned at customs, or spend a week in Tulum for less than a weekend in Florida. That's not a boycott, it's common sense. For years, the US was the default. But Canadians are realizing the world is wide open and far more welcoming. The question isn't just whether to go to the US, it's whether it's even worth it anymore. Because when friendlier places offer more value, more comfort, and fewer headaches, loyalty quickly gives way to logic. And Canadians aren't making noise about it. They're just quietly choosing other places, and not looking back. More and more, they're voting with their boarding passes. And the US isn't getting theirs. Number 7, policy and safety concerns. For many Canadians, the decision to visit the US isn't just about politics or price anymore. It's about whether it still feels right. Mass shootings have always been part of the American landscape. But in 2025, safety isn't the only concern. It's the laws, the tone, and the growing cultural divide. Several US states have introduced or expanded laws restricting abortion, banning books, limiting LGBTQ+ rights, and targeting drag performances or gender-affirming care. For Canadians who value inclusion and personal freedom, those policies aren't just controversial, they're alienating. It's no longer just the way things are in America. It's something more Canadians are actively choosing to avoid. Online forums are full of Canadians sharing where they won't go, states they once visited often, but now skip entirely. Not because they're unsafe in the traditional sense, but because the atmosphere no longer feels welcoming. This isn't about fear. It's about discomfort. And when that discomfort reaches a point where a trip starts to feel like a compromise of your own values, the decision becomes easy. The safest and most respectful choice in 2025 is, for many Canadians, to simply stay away. For many Canadians, 2025 isn't just about traveling less. It's about making a statement. This isn't loud or organized. It's a quiet boycott, expressed through absence. It's not one policy or moment. It's the growing sense that the U.S. no longer feels the same, and that showing up means accepting it. If this reflects how you've been feeling, hit like and subscribe, or share your story below. Because the way Canadians are traveling in 2025 could define what cross-border travel means in the years ahead.